KKK, yeah, KKK.
Young nigga, I got new money, I got new honey, I got old cash, pink 50s, and I got blue honey. Toolie go to dumping, jump out bustin', fully go to running. Boy, don't play with me, don't play with kids, better go to school or something. Boy, don't play with me, don't play with kids.
In 2017, the rapper Kodak Black released a song titled No Flockin' 2, in parentheses, Bodak Orange, a sequel to his 2014 hit. No one has looked at this closely. The scholarship is, to date, non-existent. It has been categorized as trap music, a genre defined by its critics as concerned primarily with money, violence, and the conspicuous display of both. This categorization is not wrong, exactly. It simply does not go far enough. What I want to argue today is that No Flockin' 2 is a philosophical document, and that Kodak Black is, in the precise technical sense of the term, a philosopher king who has ascended from the cave, apprehended the forms, and returned to give his report. Today, we will be examining it through the Platonic and Pythagorean traditions. This is not the only lens available to us. It is just the one we will be using. I want to be clear that I'm not arguing this as a matter of authorial intent. Whether Kodak consciously intended to encode Platonic metaphysics into a 3-minute trap song is a question I find uninteresting. The text means what it means. We will let it speak. Before we turn to the text itself, I want to establish the thesis properly, because everything that follows depends on it. In Book 6 of the Republic, Plato has Socrates introduce the analogy of the sun. The form of the good, Socrates argues, stands in relation to the intelligible realm as the sun stands in relation to the visible realm. The sun does not merely illuminate objects. It is the source of their existence, their growth, their capacity to be seen at all. To know the form of the good is not merely to possess a piece of information. It is to have access to the ground of all being. In the world of this text, orange occupies that position. Kodak Black has access to the form of orange. I will demonstrate this in detail when we reach the relevant passage. For now, I want to note that the form of orange, orangeness itself, prior to and generative of all particular orange instantiations, is the organizing principle of this text, and that Kodak's relationship to it is not that of a consumer or an admirer, but of a philosopher who has seen the thing itself and can therefore generate any particular instance of it at will. Bodak orange, Kodak anything. That is the conclusion. We will earn it. Alright, my apologies. I had to get one of my earbuds so that I can listen along to this song as we go, so that I can play the lyrics for you in real time so that you can hear them in their entirety with the tonal, rhythmic, and full performance that they were intended to have. Alright, the song opens as follows.
Young nigga, I got new money, I got new honey, I got old cash, pink 50s, and I got blue honey.
The immediate critical temptation is to read this as a simple enumeration, a list of financial assets. This reading misses what is philosophically operative in the distinction between new money and old cash. In Platonic metaphysics, the relationship between the eternal and the temporal is not a relationship between two kinds of things that happen to coexist. It's a relationship of participation. Particular things exist insofar as they participate in the forms. The form is eternal, unchanging, self-identical. The particular is temporal, subject to decay, defined by its relationship to the form it instantiates. Old cash is the form. New money is the instantiation. The pink 50s and blue hundreds are not separate categories. They are varieties of participation in the form of money, differentiated by color and denomination, but unified in their dependence on the same eternal ground. Kodak is not listing his assets. He's describing a metaphysical structure. He then establishes his position within the social hierarchy with the following.
Boy, don't play with me, don't play with kids that go to school the same. Boy, don't play with me, don't play with kids that nigga I shoot for fun.
The Republic is profoundly hierarchical. Plato's ideal city is organized into three classes: the philosopher kings, the auxiliaries, and the producers. And the stability of the city depends on each class understanding its position and remaining within it. What Plato calls justice at the level of the city is precisely this: each part doing its own work and not interfering with the work of the others. Boy, don't play with me, I don't play with kids is a statement of class consciousness in the Platonic sense. Kodak is not being aggressive. He's being precise. He knows which class he belongs to, and he knows which class you belong to. The refusal to play is not hostility. It's an acknowledgement of natural order. Plato would have found this admirable. We come now to what I consider the most compressed and philosophically demanding passage in the text.
I beg your pardon, girl from around the smoking flock. This a Draco, this a baby chop. I've been so angry, doctor. Draw 8 ounces in my baby bottle, pop.
The transition from anger to doctor to self-medication requires attention because Plato addresses it directly. In Book 4 of the Republic, Socrates describes cities full of doctors and lawyers as evidence of civic decay. In a well-ordered city, he argues, citizens with healthy souls do not require constant medical intervention. The proliferation of doctors is a symptom, not a cure. It indicates a population that will not discipline itself and therefore requires external management of what should be internal order. Socrates is contemptuous of this arrangement. Kodak has been angry. A doctor has presumably been consulted. Kodak's response is to self-administer 8 ounces of lean directly into a baby bottle. This is not self-destruction. This is the rejection of external epistemic authority over one's own thumos, one's spirited element, the part of the soul responsible for anger, pride, and the drive toward honor. In Plato's tripartite psychology, thumos is the ally of reason, when properly ordered. Kodak is not suppressing his thumos on medical advice. He's managing it according to his own judgment. Whether this judgment is correct is not the question the text invites us to ask.
I don't really rock, baby, I just call that bop.
This next line has almost entirely been ignored by commentators. I want to dwell on it. The Nene and the Millie Rock are dances. They are, in the technical vocabulary of Platonic epistemology, copies, particular instantiations of a form of movement that exist independently of any individual performer. To do the Nene is to participate in the form of the Nene. The dancer does not author the movement. The dancer reproduces it. So the Kodak bop is different in kind, not degree. The Kodak bop is not a reproduction of a prior form. It's an original movement whose name is identical to its author. The bop participates in no external form because it is the form. Kodak doesn't do the Kodak bop the way other people do the Nene. Kodak is the Kodak bop in the way that the form of the good is the good. Not an instance of it, but the thing itself. This is what authentic existence looks like in a Platonic framework. The Philosopher King does not imitate, he generates. The copies are downstream of him.
I'm full of gold, 16 years old, I hear the lit up top for thee.
We arrive now at the Pythagorean material. And I want to be careful here because it requires some background. Pythagoras, or more precisely the Pythagorean tradition, since the historical Pythagoras left no writings and maybe partially legendary, held that number is the fundamental principle of all reality. Not numbers as abstract symbols, but number as the living structure of being itself. The cosmos is ordered mathematically, and to understand mathematics is to understand the deep grammar of existence. Central to Pythagorean number theory is the tetractys, a triangular arrangement of points in the ratios 1, 2, 3, 4, which sum to 10. 10 was held by the Pythagoreans to be the perfect number, the number that contains all others within itself, the numerical expression of completeness. The Pythagorean oath, sworn by the tetractys itself, ran approximately: I swear by him who gave to our generation the tetractys, which contains the fount and root of eternal nature. 10 is not just a number. 10 is the ground of mathematical being. Kodak Black has had gold in his mouth since the age of 10. Gold, in Pythagorean and Platonic thought, is the material most closely associated with the highest order of soul. Plato's Republic assigns gold to the philosopher kings, silver to the auxiliaries, bronze and iron to the producers. To have gold in the mouth is to speak from the highest register of being, and to have had it since the age of 10, since the age of sacred numerical completion, is to say that this was not achieved, but discovered. It was always already there. The philosopher king does not become philosophical. He recognizes what he always was. We come now to the passage that I consider the philosophical center of the entire text, and which I referenced at the opening of this lecture.
Baby, that's Maybelline. Maybe that's Maybelline. She say, maybe that's Maybelline. Baby, that's Maybelline.
In Book 5 of the Republic, at 477a through 478e, Socrates distinguishes between three cognitive states: knowledge, belief, and ignorance. Knowledge has being as its object. It grasps the forms directly, the things that truly are. Ignorance has non-being as its object. It grasps at nothing at all. And belief, doxa, occupies the middle ground. It grasps at appearances, the things that seem to be without fully being. Make-believe, made with lean, Maybelline. These are not three random near homophones deployed for phonetic texture. They are three successive epistemic positions arranged in ascending order of unreliability. Make-believe is acknowledged fiction. The subject knows it's not real. Made with lean is substance. It has material existence, but its nature is hidden, concealed within the bottle. Maybelline is pure appearance, a brand, a surface, a thing that presents itself as what it is not. Cosmetic in the literal sense, a manufactured face applied over the real one. Kodak is doing the divided line in a single quatrain. The divided line, introduced in Book 6 of the Republic, organizes cognition into 4 levels: imagination, belief, reasoning, and understanding, each with its corresponding class of objects. What Kodak compresses into 4 lines is the middle 2 levels, the zone where most human beings spend their entire cognitive lives, mistaking appearances for reality, mistaking the brand for the substance, mistaking what is made to look like something for what something is. The lean, notably, is mentioned twice, at the beginning and at the end. It brackets the Maybelline. Substance contains appearance. The real encloses the copy. This is not an accident.
Orange soda, that my favorite dream, that my favorite lean. Orange soda, orange everything, orange everything. Bodak orange, Kodak anything, orange everything.
We return now to the form of orange, and I want to make the argument fully. In the sun analogy, the form of the good is the source of being and intelligibility for everything in the intelligible realm. It does not merely illuminate the forms, it generates them, sustains them, gives them their reality. The philosopher who has apprehended the form of the good does not merely know what things are, he knows why they are. He has access to the generative principle. Kodak's relationship to orange is, within the logic of this text, identical to the philosopher's relationship to the form of the good. The orange soda, the orange Balenciaga, the orange codeine, these are not a list of preferences, they're a catalog of participations. Each particular orange thing exists as orange insofar as it participates in orangeness itself. The orange soda is not the form. The Balenciaga is not the form. They are instances, reflections, copies that derive their orangeness from the form they instantiate. And Kodak has seen the form, Bodak orange. This is the philosopher who has ascended. Kodak anything. This is the philosopher who has returned, having apprehended the form of orange. He can generate any particular orange instance at will. He's not constrained by any specific orange thing because he has access to the principle through which all orange things proceed. Orange soda, orange codeine, orange Balenciaga. These are demonstrations, not preferences. He's showing you that he can. And I want to return to the title, No Flocking To, because I think it's doing more philosophical work than it appears to. The philosopher king in Plato's Republic does not want to rule. This is one of the most counterintuitive features of Plato's political philosophy, and one of the most important. The philosopher who has ascended from the cave and seen the sun does not naturally want to return to the cave. The cave is dark. The cave's full of people who will not believe him. The cave's populated by flockers, people who move in groups, orient themselves by the shadows on the wall, and mistake consensus for truth. And so the title's not a boast. It's a philosophical position. No flocking is the condition of the philosopher who has seen the forms and cannot unsee them. You cannot flock once you know what the sun looks like. You cannot orient yourself by the shadows once you have seen what casts them. The refusal to flock is not antisocial. It's epistemically necessary. And the sequel, the return, is the descent back into the cave. The philosopher comes back. He always comes back. In Plato's account, because justice requires it, because the city needs him, because the people in the cave are still his people, even if they can't see what he has seen. No Flocking To is the philosopher king's report from inside the cave. He has returned. He still does not flock. And he's telling you what he saw. Now, before I close, I want to briefly address what this analysis has not covered and why. You may have noticed we skipped kind of the midsection of the song. So, for example, the line, pimpin' bitches, I be trickin' freaks, tricked them for the treat, presents an interpretive difficulty that's not philosophical but contextual. The dynamics it describes have clear analogs in the social hierarchies of the ancient world, and a longer treatment could develop this productively. However, the gap between ancient Greek social convention and modern Western moral consensus is wide enough that to navigate it responsibly would require a separate lecture, and I'm just not prepared to give that at this time. The next example, Glock 23, came with a drum. Every gun I got a tambourine. Now this one almost made the cut, because I want to be honest with you, right? 23 is prime, irreducible, divisible only by itself in one, and the Pythagorean understanding of such numbers as expressions of pure unity is directly relevant. And the drum introduces rhythm and therefore harmony, and therefore the mathematical structure of the cosmos. But the tambourine, the tympanon, is an instrument with a specific ritual history, and is an instrument with a specific ritual history in the ancient world that I'm not going to get into today. To do so would require addressing Dionysus, the Corybantes, and the precise nature of ecstatic religion in pre-Socratic Greece, and at which point we're no longer doing Plato, we'd be doing Nietzsche. So that's also a different lecture. And the last example I want to give, C'est la vie, that's French. We're not doing continental philosophy here. So I want to remind you of what this analysis has demonstrated. We have not imposed a framework onto an unwilling text. The text invited this reading. The text has always invited this reading. You know, the millions of casual listeners who have filed it under trap music and moved on were not wrong to enjoy it. They were simply standing at the beginning of wisdom and declining to take the next step. Wonder is where they stayed. We did not stay there. Thank you for your time.